Good morning, Arizona. Good morning to anyone else in the United States that may happen to find this video. It is Saturday morning. I hope your weekend is starting off great. Welcome to A Voice in the Middle. If this is your first time at this channel, basically what I do is I look at the social and political issues of the day. I try to see if there's any validity in the other side's arguments, no matter who's making the initial argument, and basically try to turn around and say, can we find an area of commonality or common ground? So versus just dismissing the other argument completely, is there an area that we could turn around and we could basically, bring our two ideas together and like make something that actually reflects all of the United States instead of just 50% of the United States, depending on which 50% you basically represent if you look at the election results. Um, I am registered Republican. I am a constitutionalist. I believe in limited government. I say that because I do want you to know what my worldview is and where it is I ultimately believe and I align most of the time. Just because I am a Republican, though, does not mean I will not call out Republicans. In fact, that is what this video is about. I was not planning on making a video this morning. I kind of have stopped for the most part because it's kind of the same rhetoric is all we're hearing back and forth with everything right now. It's there was a fraud, there wasn't fraud, there's evidence, there is no evidence. Like it's the same back and forth. So if you're interested in my thoughts for any of that, check out my the previous videos I have and kind of see where I come down on that. It's going to be very different than probably what you've heard before. But I'm making this video because I got angry this morning. Because I got angry because there was something the Republican Party did, and I'm going to rephrase that. The Republican Party of my district did that honestly I believe is irresponsible and it puts people's lives and businesses at risk. And I was not okay with it. So what was it? Well, before I go right there, I want to just let you know something to kind of tell you the position I'm in, and even putting this video out, the position it puts me in is a couple of weeks ago, we had our local elections for our legislative district for the different offices for our district for the next 2 years. And I was asked if I would run to basically take over as corresponding secretary, which puts me in charge of all outgoing communications of the district, which means emails, social media, everything. I say that because I agreed to it. And no one else ran, so I got it unopposed. And so the social media posts right now are technically under my authority. Okay, is I ultimately I'm responsible for the content that gets put on there. If anything were to happen or be said that there was fallout for, I would be the one that would take responsibility for that because ultimately I'm the one in charge of that. Well, because we're in a transition period, there's a lot of people from the previous group, the administration before me, that are still admins on there, and I didn't really want to start a ticky-tack war on anything yet. I've let a lot of things go that I don't agree with. I don't believe there's evidence support the claims we're making in some cases, but I've let them go for the most part. Well, this morning there was a post about COVID, though. And the post was they were sharing a article from Representative Andy Biggs, which if you're watch Fox News whatsoever, you know who Andy Biggs is. And he basically was, condemning Ducey for not reopening Arizona. It's time to get over the COVID hysteria. And then there was a little blurb, the official like comment of the Republican Party of my district on there that basically supports what Biggs said, and that made me uncomfortable to begin with because of really two factors. One, compared to most states, Arizona is pretty reopened. Okay, are we open at full capacity? Absolutely not. We have to social distances. Restaurants have to social distance. We're not. Our movie theaters, except my local one, is still open, which I'm super thankful about. Thank you, Alamo Drafthouse. If you're here in Arizona, go support them. They're locally owned. Hopefully, you don't mind me plugging you on this video. But in hashtag not a sponsor. So our businesses, no, they're not open at capacity. They are still there's less amount of people employed because you can have less customers there. So yes, our economy is not fully open. All right, but we also aren't shut down in the way a lot of other states are. Okay, we're we're overall, I'd say we're okay. We're trying to make a Ducey in this one area, who I don't agree with a lot of things lately. He's trying to honestly make what looks like to be a healthy balance, between mitigating the virus, but also letting our businesses stay open. So I had an issue with that, but I was like, you know what, whatever, not a huge deal. I'm going to let it go. Except then there was the very first comment that was made to that post was Arizona has one of the highest transmission rates in the United States right now. Please stay at home. And our comment, and by our comment, I mean the district's Facebook page's comment to that was, they're lying to you, don't listen to them. And at this point, that comment crossed a line for me. Because A, there's no evidence that they're lying to us about the transmission rate. It doesn't exist. Okay, it's not there. There's no evidence that they're lying to us about the number of cases per day. Okay, it's not there. There's no evidence they're lying to us about the number of hospital beds available. It's not there. Okay, there's theories, but there's no evidence. So making a comment like that is extremely, it's dangerous, and it's unethical. And as an official Facebook page, in an official party of the Republican Party of the United States and of the state of Arizona, people listen to our opinion and people value what we have to say. And I was not okay with that. So I deleted the entire post. And I'll deal with whatever fallout happens to that, because it was the right thing to do. Okay? And it was the right thing to do because when you tell people to simply just ignore the information's out there, you put people's lives at risk. Okay, is when you tell people they're just lying to you, don't listen to them. What you're also telling them is, don't social distance, don't wear a mask, this is all hysteria, don't believe them, it's nothing to be concerned about. Okay, and that puts people's lives at risk. This isn't about spinning a certain argument anymore. This isn't about drumming up support for a certain cider anymore. This puts people's lives at risk. Okay, and it puts businesses at risk. Because if Arizona did become overwhelmed, guess what? There's not going to be a choice but to shut down businesses. Or even if they don't shut down a business, employees are going to be sick so often, there's not going to be anyone there to work, so the business can't function. So if that comment was being made from a standpoint of supporting local businesses, it doesn't. It potentially hurts them even more. And if that comment was being made because you honestly think that people are lying to us, then find me the statistical data to say they're lying to us, and I'll turn around, I'll put on an apology video. I'll say you were right and everyone else was wrong, because that's basically what you're saying. But here's the thing. The title of this video is Both Sides Are Lying to You. Because honestly, both sides are lying to you, and it's reached a point, especially when we're coming up to Christmas, and you've got things like Fauci saying don't do Christmas. Well, being spun, he's saying cancel Christmas completely. Okay, you've got that side of the argument. You got the side of the argument saying we need to shut everything down. You got the side of the argument saying we need to reopen everything. Who are we supposed to listen to? Because we're not finding any opinions that are trying to diverge in the middle, right? We're not. We're finding opinions saying you need to listen to me or you need to listen to me. You have to pick one of these two sides, because one of these two sides has to be right. Wrong. They're both wrong. And I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to prove it to you today. So please, look at how I come to this data, look how I come to this conclusion, because I think it is the only way that we can honestly come up with a rational approach to how we handle everything that's going on. Now, if you're coming from another state and you're randomly watching this video from somewhere else that's not the United States, maybe I've got family members that are in Pennsylvania, things like that, take what I say and you can apply that to your state. The numbers I'm going to be showing are for Arizona, but you can find the exact same numbers at your state. And if you can't, that's something I would petition for. It'd be like, hey, we need access to this so we can make sure y'all are making the right decisions. But you can use the same pathway to get there. Okay, so let's start first with the side that we need to shut everything down because we are at numbers worse than we were over the summer, and the virus spread is even worse than it was over the summer. How are they coming to that conclusion? Well, they're coming to that conclusion because of this number right here, cases per day. And if you look at this number, and if you take this number in isolation, it 100% does look like we are at 3 times the amount of cases that we had per day over July. Okay, that's just not factually accurate. Okay, it may be more than the cases we had in July. I think there's evidence to say it's actually probably about the same. Um, but you can't just take this number by itself. So all the people that are trying to scare people, that are trying to say we need to do another shutdown because we're at 3 times the amount of cases we were in July and spread is so much worse, you're either purposely misleading people to scare them into doing shutting things down for whatever reason you want it shut down, or you just may not understand the actual data and the actual numbers. So what does this number tell us? Well, this number tells us that we do have 3 times the number of positive cases being reported in July. Now, there's a very big distinction to make there with reported, because you cannot look at these numbers on a one-to-one comparison. You just can't. And there's 2 main factors for that. Number one, we were not testing to the level that we were testing at in July. I believe right around July is right when maybe the drive-through testing centers had maybe just started opening. But even then, for the most part, a lot of those were rapid tests, which weren't super accurate at the time. Like there's a lot of disparities that go into those test results. But for the most part, people were only still being tested is if they had to be hospitalized or they had severe enough symptoms, they may have to be hospitalized. So you wanted to get the right diagnosis early. Okay. So people were not just going to get tested. If you had a cough, if you had a fever, you weren't going in to get tested. You were only getting tested if a medical diagnosis, for the most part, was necessary, okay, to figure out if you had COVID or not. That's the reason you were being tested. So you didn't have testing like you do today. So that's number one. Testing is a lot more readily available. My wife and our foster placement, we have our family has been tested 3 or 4 times in the past 5 weeks. Because we have to be, and that will go into the next point of this argument why you can't compare these results. All those tests have been negative, by the way, but we never would have been tested in July, especially 5 times. I mean, 3 or 4 times within a 5 week period. There's no way they would have tested us that many times back then because we didn't have the number of tests available, right? We just didn't. Okay, and that leads to the other reason why we can't compare these results, and it's because of what I just said. We've been tested 3 or 4 times in 5 weeks. Why? Well, there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, our foster placement. If she has any sort of cold or flu symptoms whatsoever, she either has to be symptom free for 24 hours, then quarantine for 10 days, okay? Or we have to go get a COVID test and it come back negative in order for her to be able to attend visits. And the reason for that is the state of Arizona, DCS, does not want to risk a child with COVID or a parent with COVID attending a visit and then spreading that to the kids in care at DCS. You have kids in foster homes all over the place. If that happened, you want to talk about rapid transmission, community spread, that could happen very, very quickly, okay? The other reason is my wife is a teacher. It's the same scenario. She had to call out of work the other day because she had cold symptoms. They're not supposed to go in if she had cold symptoms. She was told that she either has to wait in quarantine 10 days, 24 hours after symptoms stop, or get a COVID test. So she went and got a COVID test. Okay. Now all of our tests came back negative. Okay. But there's a lot of people in those exact same scenarios that they have cold symptoms, they have flu symptoms, they have very mild symptoms. They have symptoms that you wouldn't have gone and gotten tested for previously that are going to get tested, and it turns out they have COVID. So this number that we see right here of the cases per day, you cannot compare that to a one-to-one ratio of the number of cases over the summer because people are being tested now that never were tested over the summer, okay? So my best guess is we're probably actually at about the same level. Well, how do I come to that conclusion? Well, I come to that conclusion because of this number over here. It's the number of hospital beds available, the percentage of hospital beds available, okay? Because if you are a severe case, you're going to be hospitalized, okay? And if this number is actually 4 times the amount it was over the summer, and it's because COVID is spreading even worse, that also means that 4 times the amount of the elderly population would be getting COVID. I know I'm making a couple assumptions here, but we're just going to assume the data goes across the board that way. It's the only way we can make a rational decision about this. So that means the number of elderly that get it are 4 times as likely. That means the number of hospitals that we'd have is it would increase 4 times. Well, when you look at this number, during the peak over the summer, we hovered between a 9 to 12% beds available in the ICU and emergency rooms over that period of time. Okay. We had, until I believe 2 or 3 days ago, we had been hovering still between 9 and 10% of hospital beds available in Arizona. Even when these first set of giant, sorry, this one over here, even when these first set of giant numbers started popping up, our beds stayed the same. The number of hospital beds being taken up didn't increase. So what that tells me is you have a lot of people testing positive that have very mild symptoms. They are people that probably would not have been tested over the summer unless they had to have been for some reason, for different reason, but testing wasn't available. Okay. So when you compare these numbers, the fact that our hospital bed range is roughly the same as what it is over the summer, that tells me the number of people we have being admitted into the hospitals is about the same, which means the rate of transmission and the rate of positive test rates is probably about the same. Now, I will tell you, within 8% of capacity, that is something to be concerned about. Okay, and that number is even being skewed a little bit, and I'll explain why real fast. Is over the summer we also had stopped elective procedures. They weren't allowed to continue. So that was because this is total hospital beds available, right? It's the total number of hospital beds. So I'm not looking just at the COVID test. I'm looking at how many hospital beds are available. So we still have people, except I believe in Tucson, just stopped all elective procedures. You still have a lot of people that are getting elective procedures over the summer. A lot of people were being sent home also if they just needed maybe an oxygen tank, and they were being sent home with an oxygen tank. I haven't heard of any reports yet of people being sent home that would have been allowed to stay in a hospital a few weeks ago, and right now they're currently not. So even this number is a little skewed, okay? But this number is the reason I got so angry about the post today, because we're within 8% of capacity. Okay, 8% of capacity. If that number gets to 0, do you know what that means? That means the person with a heart attack may not be able to get in and get seen by a doctor in time. That means the person with a random staph infection may not be able to get in and see the doctor in time. That means the person that was working on their saw in their driveway, and they cut a finger off, and normally that finger could have been able to be reattached because we could have got to them quick enough. They've now lost a finger. Not a death, but that still impacts them long term, right? That's the danger of hospitals being overrun. It means we're not able to treat other people. So when we as a party put a post out that says they're lying to you with no factual basis behind it, and saying don't trust what they're saying, and essentially saying ignore the mandates being put out, reopen everything, let's not 6-foot distance, let's not wear masks, let's not buy any of this hysteria because they're all lying to you, we're putting lives at danger. And it's not lives at danger because of COVID. It's lives at danger because our hospitals become overrun, and then people are not able to get the treatment that they need. And that is irresponsible, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. And if the person that happens to put that post up sees this, I know you're going to be angry. I don't care. It's the truth. Now more than ever, those of us in positions that we have the ability to influence people via social media, we need to make sure we are giving people the most accurate information we can, not information that suits our blinded political ideology. I want to leave all of us with this, is especially if you're Republican and you're watching this video, maybe you agree with it, maybe you don't, I don't know. I'm going to make a guess that you're probably a moralistic person. You probably are of a Judeo-Christian belief system, most likely. Um, and if that's the case, that means you value human life. Well, if you value human life, why are you so anti-lockdown? And this is what I mean by that. Yes, sorry, yeah, why are you so anti-lockdown? Yes, when we lock down our businesses, that puts people out of business, which is why I don't support a lockdown completely. Okay, but when we don't lock down our businesses, we risk people's lives. We risk our hospitals becoming overrun. We risk our neighbor not being able to get the treatment that they need. And so we're at a point to where we have to balance the decisions that we make, that we have to try to find the best worst solution, because there is no perfect solution in this. If you fully open up businesses again, it's not going to have the impact that you think it's going to have, because the virus is going to go unmitigated. And a lot of people are going to be calling out of work. So businesses may not even be able to open at full capacity. A lot of consumers are going to be able to be sick, are going to be sick. So businesses aren't going to be able to operate at full capacity. It's just a fact. And again, if you think that fact is wrong, find the data to disprove it. Find the data that shows the transmission rate isn't as high as what they say it is. Okay? So if we reopen, it doesn't help our businesses. It hurts them even more, or it hurts them the same. All right? And then you're also now risking lots of people's lives that maybe wouldn't have got COVID otherwise. So anyway, long video. This is actually video take number 3. First one, I was really, really angry. Number 2, I kind of ranted a lot more in the beginning. So I was like, let me cut down that a little bit. Just trying to make this a little bit shorter for you guys. I hope you stayed beginning to end, listen to it, because I think the information I had is very valuable. But this is Dustin from A Voice in the Middle. I want you guys all have a Merry Christmas. Have a Happy New Year. I will talk to you guys again soon. Enjoy your weekend. I love you all. God bless. Take care of yourselves and be a voice of reason when we're hearing everything from the two sides. Take care, guys.